Imagine a tiny seed, smaller than a grain of sand, holding the potential for a new life. Now imagine that seed being carefully frozen, protected in a state of suspended animation, waiting for its moment to grow. This isn't science fiction, it's the reality of embryo cryopreservation, a technology quietly reshaping our understanding of family. For decades, these microscopic beginnings have been kept safe in frozen stillness, their biological clocks paused while the world outside continues to turn. Today, these tiny time travelers are waking up, creating families in ways we never thought possible. The idea of family is changing. It's about love, intention, and the incredible journeys people take to become parents. The story of decades-old embryos is a powerful part of this evolution, a story of hope, generosity, and children uniquely connected to a time before they were born. These children are living proof that the bonds of family can transcend time itself, woven together by science, compassion, and an enduring desire to nurture. As we explore this remarkable phenomenon, we'll meet families transformed by it, learn about the science, and consider the ethical questions along the way. This is a story about modern miracles, quiet clinics, and the boundless nature of love, where the most beautiful stories are sometimes the ones that waited the longest to be told. The science behind freezing an embryo sounds futuristic, but its roots go back decades. The process, called cryopreservation, is like a biological pause button, cooling living cells to extremely low temperatures without damaging them. Early on, ice crystals were the enemy, threatening to destroy delicate cells. The breakthrough came with cryoprotectants, special substances that act like antifreeze, protecting cells from ice damage. In 1972, the first mouse embryo was successfully frozen and thawed. By 1983, the first human baby was born from a frozen embryo. The original slow freezing method worked, but not perfectly. Some embryos didn't survive the thaw. Today, vitrification is the gold standard, a flash freezing process that locks embryos into a glass-like state, preventing ice crystals and boosting survival rates above 95%. Embryos are stored in liquid nitrogen at -196 degrees Celsius, where all biological activity stops. In this state, an embryo doesn't age. A day or 30 years in storage makes no difference. When thawed, these embryos can continue their journey as if no time has passed. This scientific marvel is the foundation for thousands of modern family stories. It's not just about technology, it's about giving hope, options, and second chances. The ability to pause life, then restart it decades later is changing what's possible for families everywhere. To understand frozen embryos, we first have to understand how they're created, through in vitro fertilization, or IVF. IVF begins with fertility medications to stimulate the ovaries, producing multiple eggs. Eggs are retrieved, sperm is collected, and fertilization happens in a lab dish. Over several days, fertilized eggs divide and grow into embryos, carefully monitored by embryologists. Usually, more embryos are created than can be transferred at once, so doctors recommend transferring only 1 or 2 to avoid risky multiple pregnancies. The remaining healthy embryos are frozen for future use. This is where cryopreservation becomes crucial. Frozen embryos give parents options. Try again if the first transfer fails, have another child years later, or donate unused embryos to others. This surplus has led to a growing bank of embryos, frozen in time, waiting for a chance at life. Each embryo represents a potential future, a story waiting to unfold. The science of IVF and freezing has made parenthood possible for countless families, and for some, it's opened the door to a new kind of adoption, one that begins before birth. Few stories capture the wonder of this technology like that of Molly and Emma Gibson. In 2017, Tina and Ben Gibson welcomed Emma, born from an embryo frozen for 24 years, a world record at the time. Tina, 26, joked she and her daughter could have been childhood friends, as Emma's embryo was frozen when Tina was a toddler. The Gibsons, struggling with infertility, discovered embryo adoption through the National Embryo Donation Center. They chose embryos from anonymous donors, unaware of their age until transfer preparations. Their faith and hope led to Emma's birth, a healthy child from a decades-old embryo. 3 years later, they welcomed Molly, Emma's full genetic sibling, from an embryo frozen for 27 years. Molly and Emma were conceived on the same day, born 3 years apart, their lives bridging nearly 3 decades. The Gibsons story is a testament to the viability of long-frozen embryos and the emotional depth of embryo adoption. Their family was built on science and the generosity of strangers, showing that love and life can transcend time. These stories aren't just medical marvels, they're deeply human tales of hope and connection. Embryo adoption, or embryo donation, is emerging as a unique path to parenthood. With infertility rates rising, millions of couples face long emotional journeys to build a family. Embryo adoption offers a distinct alternative. It allows a woman to experience pregnancy and childbirth, fulfilling a deep longing for many. There are over 1 million frozen embryos in the US alone, surplus from IVF cycles. For families done having children, donating embryos is a life-affirming solution, giving others the gift of parenthood. Cost is another factor. IVF and traditional adoption can be prohibitively expensive, while embryo adoption is often more affordable and accessible. The process typically involves medical procedures for transfer and agency fees, but skips the costly steps of egg retrieval and embryo creation. Emotionally, embryo adoption is powerful. Adopting parents feel called to give these embryos a chance at life. For donors, it brings peace of mind, knowing their genetic legacy continues in a loving home. This blend of practicality, affordability, and deep emotional resonance is fueling the rise of embryo adoption. It's not just a medical procedure, it's an act of rescue, love, and hope. More families are turning to this option, building modern families in extraordinary ways. Embryo adoption is redefining what it means to create a family. Families don't navigate embryo adoption alone. A network of organizations guides them. Groups like the National Embryo Donation Center, NEDC, and Snowflakes embryo adoption bridge donors and recipients, handling logistics, legalities, and emotional support. Some agencies facilitate open or semi-open adoptions, allowing for future contact and access to genetic history. Others treat the process like traditional adoption, with home studies and legal contracts. These organizations provide counseling, help families process their decisions, and coordinate safe transport of embryos. They ensure ethical, legal, and emotional needs are met, making the process structured and supportive. By building these bridges, they help frozen embryos find their way into loving arms. Creating families from decades-old embryos raises complex legal and ethical questions. Who owns a frozen embryo? Property, person, or something in between? Laws vary widely, and contracts at clinics are crucial. Courts have struggled with disputes over embryo ownership, especially in divorce or death. Ethically, the fate of millions of embryos in storage is debated. Is it right to freeze them indefinitely, discard them, or is there a duty to donate? For children born this way, questions of identity and origin arise. How do they process being conceived decades before birth? Experts advise openness and honesty, framing their story as one of love and hope. Navigating these issues is a key part of the journey for families created through embryo adoption. Families created from decades-old embryos are redefining what it means to belong. The essence of family is shifting, from shared DNA to shared love, commitment, and intention. Parents who choose embryo adoption make a conscious choice to love a child with no genetic connection, forging bonds in the heart. Children may have genetic siblings decades older, yet are wholly part of the family that chose them. The emotional journey is unique. Gratitude for science, for donor families, and for the chance to build a family. The child's origin story becomes a narrative of gift and connection, not abandonment. These stories broaden our perspective. Family is a choice, an action, a daily commitment. Whether through biology, traditional adoption, or embryo adoption, love is what builds a home. These modern families are a testament to hope, resilience, and the beautiful diversity of belonging. The future of families created through embryo adoption is bright and full of potential. As awareness grows, stigma fades, and more clinics offer donation programs, this path becomes mainstream. Advances in cryopreservation and genetic screening will further improve outcomes and options. Digital platforms are making connections easier, allowing for more open relationships between donors and recipients. As more children grow up, their voices will shape best practices and understanding. The story of frozen embryos is one of expanding hope, where science, generosity, and love converge to create new definitions of family. The future is one where the doors to parenthood are wide open, and family is defined by love above all.